Welcome, everybody. We're so excited to get started on this next session. I know we're running a little bit late, but we're going to start chatting about Laugh Out Loud. And the reason we started this presentation was it was kind of funny. Many years ago when I was teaching, I was in the Wilkinson Center, and I was teaching at the Little Theater, and I had mislabeled the class about the importance of love and laughter. And, I mean, the place was just packed. And people want to have humor and happy memories and joy in their lives. So my name is Margaret Pickard. I'm a family court judge in Las Vegas. This is my husband, Keith Pickard. He is the principal of the Nevada Family Law Group and also a state senator, and he and I are committed to helping the community going through separation and divorce. Did you want to start?
Sure. I mean, we usually, our work is usually on the front end or at the time when things are really rough. And so, I mean, we can find happiness and joy, as President Nelson talked about, in any circumstance, right? I find usually, in most of my cases, I find something I can laugh at, okay? Either at or with my client, preferably with. But, you know, but that's not where we like to be. And if we've learned anything, if any of you were in the last class, you'll know that I am high conflict by nature. I get a dopamine hit by the game, the strategy, the competition of it, and that's taken on a fairly maladaptive approach in my divorces. Yes, I'm a proponent of marriage. I've been married 3 times. But at the end of the day, it's all about, for me, the way I'm wired is, how can I win? That doesn't work in parenting very well. But when I met Margaret, she worked with me and she taught me a new way of doing things. And part of the lessons that she taught me was about the benefit of positive experiences. And that's what today is all about. So we're going to start with the gift of laughter. This is actually something I'm going to turn it back over to Margaret. But just think about this. A child laughs 400 times a day on average. An adult typically only 15. Think about that contrast. And then think about, wouldn't it be nice to return to childhood when we are laughing 400 times a day? Of course it would. Of course, children, when they're laughing, you know, they're not dealing with the difficulties of life. But we can be doing everything we can to making sure that at the end of the day, we're still laughing, okay? And children do best when their parents have a positive interaction and approach to them and to life in general.
All right, so we are going to talk about this because happy memories matter. There's been a ton of research on what kids remember about their childhood. And if you look back at your childhood and you think about your parents, you probably could describe your parents in a couple of key words. Would you describe your parents as happy, carefree, stressed, angry, bitter, spontaneous? I want you to think about what you want your kids to know about you and think about you when they're grown up. So at the end of the day, as Keith said, the most overwhelming key to a child's success is the positive involvement of parents, one or both. Here's what I need you to understand, that we serve the Lord by raising our kids unto the Lord. I'm a convert to the church. I didn't join until I was 25 years old. I felt a big hole in my heart until I joined the church. It has filled such a wonderful void that I had in my life. And better yet, when I had teenagers, my leaders helped me raise my kids. And that's a wonderful place to be. So here's what I want you to understand. Dieter Uchtdorf, sorry, I've been talking for 3 hours. Dieter Uchtdorf said that love should be your walk and your talk. So what do your kids think of you, about you when they think of you, when they're describing you to their friends? How do they describe you? Do they describe you as happy, or do they describe you as stressed with everyday life? I want you to really think about that. In our last class, we talked about the 3 most important things kids need from their parents. Vital, important information. Number 1, your kids need to know that you love them and you show them affection. That gives them security. Number 2, they need to know that you're coping with life's difficulties. That's called stress management. And number 3 is that they're going to learn to have a relationship based on what they see you doing, how they see you treating mom or dad, their co-parent. So that's an important part of who they become. Without these skills, it says without parents who provide these basics, children have a high likelihood of developing into self-absorbed adults who cannot sustain relationships or employment. So keep in mind, you need to be an example of healthy relationships for your children. So how many of you like your kids? That sounds like a funny question, doesn't it? But there's a lot of people who their kids think that they're a nuisance to them because they have so many difficulties in life. They're trying to go to work, they're trying to get things done, and they don't take time and put these things down. If I were to walk around during this presentation and I had my phone in my hand and I kept looking at what texts I was getting, would you think that you were the most important thing or that this device was the most important thing? There's actually something called parenting in absentia, and it's a common phenomenon now when you see kids who are playing at the park or at a social event, and the parents aren't paying attention to the game or the kids. They're looking through their social media. I promise you that social media won't matter in 10 years, but your time paying attention to your kids will. So just remember that you want your kids to know you like them and you love them, because they're social mirrors. They are who we tell them they are. If we tell them they're beautiful, they believe that. If we tell them they're kind, they're generous. But we as parents are working on a perfection that probably is unattainable. Social media is giving this unattainable view of what the perfect person or family should look like. And so I will say, number 1, the best thing to do to laugh out loud with your kids on a regular basis is unplug. Put your digital devices down. We had a rule in our house that for meals you were not allowed to have stuffed animals, toys, or phones, including us, at mealtime. Now, one time our bishop saw that our teenage boy had his phone at an activity and he was texting some girl. So he took the phone and he said, "Stetsy Poo can't talk right now." Our son never had his phone out for another social event again. But at home, I had a similar rule. If you're a teenager, and you have a phone and you come to the table with your phone, don't worry. I'll take care of your phone for 24 hours and I'll respond to all your texts for you. It's not a problem. Our kids learn pretty soon. The purpose of the dinner table is to interact with one another. The purpose of our time, our evening free zones, is to interact, spend time, read books with one another. So it's important that you understand that to start with, number 1, in our society today, both children and parents need to spend less time with digital media and more time with one another. And I live my life by this motto. I love this saying. It says, when you're 90 years old, what are the moments you will remember in your life? Can you imagine you're 90 years old in a rocking chair and you look back on your life? What memories are you going to remember? It's going to be a few what we call flashbulb memories. I'm going to teach you what flashbulb memories are. They're those memories that are just emblazed in your brain because they were so emotionally important to your well-being. So here's an example that I think is just hilarious. This is my daughter with her dad on her wedding day. And I love this quote, "I, Nephi, having been born of goodly parents, therefore I was taught somewhat in all the learning of my father." Do you notice her dad? This is what her dad does. He takes his finger, puts it in his mouth, and he sticks it in the kids' ears. I know that sounds crazy, but he's been doing that since they were little kids, and it's the funniest thing. But look at what the brother and sister are doing at her wedding. They did exactly what he did. They're having a moment of fun, and they're being just like their dad. And I love this picture because it kind of shows the humor that their dad lives life with, and now they're also adopting that with one another. So I love this saying, call it a clan, call it a network, call it a tribe, call it a family, whatever you call it, whoever you are, you need one. We all need to belong. So why are memories important? Here's what I want to teach you first and foremost. How many of you have ever heard of a flashbulb memory? A flashbulb memory is something that happens to you. It's a vivid and detailed memory of a snapshot of a memory connected to some emotional moment. So for example, you walk into grandma's house for Christmas and you smell the cinnamon rolls. The first time you play at McDonald's and you go down a McDonald's slide. The first time your parents got in a fight. walking in on your parents having sex. That's a flashbulb moment, unfortunately. Those are moments that are seared into our mind. And I want you to have happy moments. Your very favorite camping trip you ever went on with your family. The very first time you read To Kill a Mockingbird, or whatever your favorite book was. Those are memories, and if you think about life's events, the best memories in your life are shared with somebody. So Keith's going to talk about childhood memories and how we create them for our own kids.
So this is really fun stuff. This is where we get to talk about how to have the best possible scenario set up, parenting opportunity for our kids. And we don't have to be married to do this. We don't have to be in a big family. These are opportunities. You know, camping is typically the number one response when we talk to kids about, you know, what do you remember most? What's your happiest memory growing up? And, you know, I read it in the article. They talked about an inner city kid who didn't have parents that would engage with them. He went on a camping trip in a local park with a service provider. That was his happiest experience, right? Now, it's interesting as we talk about camping because usually the camping trips we remember the most are the ones where everything turned out to be a disaster, right? When the tent caved in or the pole broke or it rained and flooded the thing, right? But these are usually happy memories because they were tied to a significant event. Now, we call that the McDonald's effect, okay? I was talking to a few people before, so if you heard the answer to this, don't blurt it out. Who can tell me why McDonald's created the Happy Meal? Okay, I don't see any hands. Yes, it was to give kids a happy experience, but why would they go to that expense? This is pure expense for them. Okay, you're not buying the toys, well, I suppose the price does cover it, but it's not about a happy toy that they're giving kids. It's they recognize that if you associate, particularly in young children, a happy experience with something else, in this case, eating at McDonald's, they will forever want McDonald's. They are building customers for life. Now, it's a happy accident that when they built the play space, finally the parents got to eat while the kids are off playing. But again, it's about creating an experience in a child's life that is so happy, so magical, they want to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it until they retire and, well, forever. Why do you think McDonald's selling, you know, food that they had a documentary telling you how it's going to kill you didn't really affect their sales? Okay? This is the McDonald's effect. Unfortunately, it works in reverse too. One of the things that we see in high conflict custody matters is you do an exchange on a holiday, you're going to teach that child to hate that holiday because child exchanges are always associated with heightened anxiety is always associated with the custodial exchange. So this is about recognizing that there's an opportunity to create these really positive experiences in the life of the child. And we do it through family rituals. You know, it's, you know, we read Christmas, night before Christmas, and the historian Luke, every Christmas Eve. Our kids are grown. We now have, 6 grandkids. The kids still come and say, let's read. It's this type of thing. So, and the other thing we do is on birthdays, Margaret is great about this. You take just ordinary 8.5 by 11 paper, you grab some markers, and you draw signs, happy birthday or happy Mother's Day, whatever it is. You make 4 or 5 of them each, and then you paste them around the house so that when she gets up that morning, she's greeted by that. It's huge, and these things really do help. You know, we of course, we don't drink alcohol, but we have a toast, and we go around the table and talk about the things and the people that we're grateful for. these things strengthen relationships, and they're absolutely positive memories that our kids are going to have. And you don't need to have that idyllic family to do it. You can create these in the most humble circumstances. And these are the things that really teach our children how to function as healthy, happy, productive adults. So, celebrate one another. Don't pass up an opportunity for a birthday or an anniversary of any kind. You know, if it's the anniversary of the first day you learned to tie your shoes, it doesn't matter. You celebrate, you create these memories. You instill in the child that they are great. Nothing will help your relationship with your children better. So, how do we do it?
Well, there's a great book that I'm reading it and that I just love. I just picked it up, and it was kind of the culmination of a lot of research that's been put together. And it says, and it's called, it's the blue one right there. Pick it up. And it's just, I just happened to be reading it. It says, The Power of Moments. And the power of moments are created. So what's really interesting is, how do you create an event out of a normal everyday life? Because I do not believe in buying just junk for kids. Don't go buy a bunch of stuff. I am an advocate of creating memories by what you have, what you say, and how you do, and how you treat people. So let's say that we're going to have a movie night on Friday. So every Friday is movie night. For us, every Saturday is Pickard pancake breakfast. So Keith makes Pickard pancakes on Saturday morning. On Friday night, when our kids were growing up, we had movie night. And it wasn't just like, okay, it's 6 o'clock on Friday, what movie are we going to watch? It was Monday. Hey guys, what movie are we going to watch on Friday? Oh, who got an A on a test this week? You get to pick the movie. Who's going to pick the food? Should we order pizza, or are we going to make tacos together? So starting on Monday, we make a plan for what we're going to be doing on Friday. It's called stringing pearls. So you're building a moment by talking about it in advance. The second thing is, every great event has to have an activity and food. I believe in food. It can be healthy food, because I'm pretty healthy. But give the kids the opportunity to make fun food. Ask them what they want to make for Friday night movie night. Assign each one of them something to make. Maybe somebody's going to make chicken fingers. Maybe somebody's going to make cut up apples. Maybe somebody's going to cut up some carrots. Or they're going to put them out because they're too young to cut them up. But just be creative. Maybe you take a projector and you have movie night on the back of your house. Do something unexpected and something fun. Because if you are excited, your kids will get excited. And this is why it is so important to understand this in our circumstances. If you're divorced and separated, and maybe you're still a single parent, you may not have a huge number of kids and a huge number of cousins to celebrate with. Maybe it's just a time for you and one or two of your kids to go out in the backyard and have a picnic. Make it a great event that they get excited about. And again, don't buy a whole bunch of new stuff, but choose what you have. It's how you talk about it and how you frame it that makes all the difference for the kids. And that's why I say every moment can be special. So when we got married, we started some fun traditions, kind of by accident for some of them. Our oldest son went on a mission to Mexico, so we started Mexican Monday. Every night we would go and get Mexican food. We would maybe do a takeout at Roberto's. Got to the point where, because I'm cheap, it's expensive, we just started making tacos at home. Then we had another family that we invited. Then we played a game together. Here we are, almost 10 years later, we still get together with the same families. And most of our kids are grown and gone, and we make Mexican food, and we play a game. And it's just a tradition we started so many years ago. We are game players. How many of you are game players? I love this game right here. It is one of my favorite games. We play it every night, every time we're together. Code names. I love code names. So code names is just such a fun game, and here's a typical example of our family playing code names on a family game night. I don't know if you can see it, but in the top left of the corner of the picture, Keith is sitting on top of me, because I always try to give a clue to my team of what cards to pick. And so he's sitting, and I'm looking through his hands, because I'm like, no, I want to tell my team that it's the top 3 cards. But it's just a fun thing. So my point is, you can get a box, you can get a card game, you can get anything. Create a family game night. Milton Bradley spent $8 million on Family Game Night, a campaign that said once a week, every family should get together and play games. I'm like, that's called Family Home Evening, and it was free, and the LDS Church thought of it. But again, what do you do for your family night, whenever that is? I'm giving you lots of examples of what we do because we play games all the time. Neighbor kids come over. We play, we can pull out any game and play it. I love Rummy Cube. It can be a cheap little game. My kids give me games for every holiday. It's just a time to spend together without these digital devices. We are losing these wonderful opportunities to create memories. How many of you still do puzzles? Look at these grown adults. This is our family reunion. We did a puzzle together a couple of years ago. We have a puzzle every family reunion. Sometimes we just take old tires and this is us floating the Snake River. We just went out there and got old tires and floated the Snake River. Do you have fun holiday traditions? As you're separated, what you need to remember is you in your new home have to create traditions. Some of them you're going to bring from when you were married, and some of them you're going to start from scratch, day one. When I married Keith, I thought this was so cute. It was Christmas Eve. And Keith had a tradition of, as he said, reading the night before Christmas. Sorry, I keep walking away from my mic. Reading the night before Christmas. And then he would walk outside of the house and hold a set of jingle bells, and he would just ring. And I would say, Santa's here, and he would just ring the bells outside the house. That's all he did. Didn't cost us anything, but the kids would go to bed and they would close their eyes and they would go to sleep. It was just a fun little tradition that we started. And now every Christmas morning he makes Pickard pancakes. We all have just a really good time. Many years ago, a friend's grandfather told me that every year you should have a family reunion. It doesn't have to be with 500 cousins, because I don't have 500 cousins. We have our kids, it's Keith and I. Neither one of us have large extended families. So we create a family reunion, whether it's camping, borrowing somebody's house, renting a house, and we just play games and have a good time. And everybody gets assigned a meal to create. But we need these memories for our kids' sake. Because when it comes to the holiday, if it's Christmas time, we want our kids to remember the great times they had at our house. That's important to remember. Now, we can make anything fun, really, you can. We have rules in our house about discipline and humor. People often think that family memories and happy memories are just for holiday times, but that's not true. We can create a happy memory through anything. And I put this up here because we were structured in our home. We had 7 kids. We had to be structured. And one time our son got home he blew his curfew, and he got home at 12:30, and his curfew was at 12. So we were like, what speaks to this kid? And so I said to him, here's the consequence, sweetheart. Either you can continue to drive the car and use our car, the family car, for events or school if you need it, but you have to be home at 9 o'clock every Friday and Saturday night for a month. On Friday and Saturday, no late curfews, 9 o'clock. Or I can drive you everywhere that you want to go for the week, and then you can come home at 11 o'clock every night on Friday and Saturday night. Which do you think he chose? He chose 9 o'clock because he's not going to be driven around anywhere by mom. But there was a consequence, and we made it fun. We wanted to give him 2 options, something that he could choose. And he still to this day remembers how much fun it was that he blew his curfew, because he got to negotiate a really good outcome. And even though most people would say, why wouldn't he pick the 11 o'clock on Friday and Saturday night? Just for the simple act of pride. He didn't want mom or dad driving him wherever he had to go. So that's my point, is that happy memories are not just at holiday times. They're for everyday occasions. One thing that, I'm missing my, is it going? It's not going down. What did I do?
You're on the wrong keyboard.
Oh, I'm like, why isn't it? What?
I don't know what you did there.
I don't know what I did either. Sorry, wait, don't look.
There,
Okay, here we are.
Use
Okay.
these.
So we also have something for church. We timeout. We love timeout. Timeout's such a fun time. And when we have church time, I shouldn't have done this like this. I should have called it practice time. But basically, when we go to church, when our kids they were young, and we all had them all lined up, and when they were irreverent in church, we started it as timeout, and we would say, when you get home, you've been irreverent for 10 minutes. When you get home, we're going to do practice time. We're going to do timeout, and you're going to have to go to your room. Well, we decided we were going to change that because our kids said, wouldn't it be more fun if we just had to practice being reverent. So let's say that we were in church and we were all lined up, and for 5 minutes, Bailey is picking on Stetson. So at the end of church, she looks at me and I say, 5 minutes, we're going to go home after church, and for 5 minutes, she's going to practice being reverent. The kids themselves decided they would sit in front of a picture of Christ and they would fold their arms and they couldn't talk. Now the rest of us right next to them would be eating tortilla chips and, just having a great time. But the kids would have had to learn to practice being reverent. It was a fun way of making what we called time out into a challenge every Sunday. Who got the least amount of practice time? And who actually was quiet, because one time our son had 30 minutes of practice time, and at the very end, he kicked his brother, and he said, "Be quiet." Well, he said, "Shut up." So his practice time started over. Happened one time, never had to do it again, because we made it a fun experience. And I just kind of want to point that out, because sometimes these are the everyday moments that make all the difference in the world. Other things can also be used when we create happy memories. And how many of us have ever told a white lie? I'm sure you never did. I do on my license, because it's not really how much I weigh. But usually speaking, I try to be a little bit honest. But I love, Oprah Winfrey actually taught me this really interesting concept. It was funny because her boyfriend Stedman would always tell the truth. And she told us one story about how even if her friend would call her and she was in a fight with her friend and she said, "Just tell her I'm in the bathtub." This was the day before cell phones. He would say, "Well, then you better get your butt into the bathtub, because I'm not lying to her." So fully dressed, she'd have to run into the bathroom and sit there if she really wanted him to tell the friend that she was in the bathtub. I always love that story, because we as parents need to be open and honest and teach our kids simple things like honesty. Happy memories are created because our kids trust us and believe in us, and the little things make all the difference in the world. Now, along the similar lines, how many of you have kids who do chores and have responsibility at home? Every Tuesday morning I do adoptions in court, and I always say to the kids who are old enough, "Do you have chores at home?" And they're like, "Well, some of them do, some of them don't." If they don't, I put them under oath and make them promise to do a certain number of chores. And either they're going to clean their room or they're going to, clear the table. But every kid needs chores, because chores are part of giving back to the community of the home, right? And I love this, 3 Thessalonians 10, "If any would not work, neither should they eat." So we actually had this chore chart that was up in the kitchen, and it would, every week our kids would be assigned a specific chore, and you can see that Bailey would start with dishes, she would move up to vacuuming, then she'd do bathrooms, then she'd do laundry, and it would rotate the next week. This is when we had 4 kids at home. And every week we had this chore chart up there. The only thing we had to change every month was the date. And the reason I started that was because I had every chore chart you could ever imagine. I had popsicle sticks, I had old jeans cut up, and I realized if I did this, and the rule was just you have to have your chores done by the time dinner starts, by the time the prayer starts, this was incredibly effective for getting our kids to do chores, because they would learn that they had to have their chores done. I would say dinner's in 45 minutes. Some of them would be helping me get it ready. Dinner's in 45 minutes. We feed kids who do their chores. And the fight over chores just stopped. It was just really interesting to see how that happens. Now, you cannot be the parent that says, "Oh, well, you didn't really do your chores, so later I'll give you a hot dog." No, 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 no. If you're not done with your chores, sitting down by the time the prayer starts, don't worry, breakfast is in the morning. They don't get to raid the refrigerator at night. See how we're changing the presentation of important opportunities for our kids. We also taught them to clean their room in the same way. I use these garbage bags because I had a rule in my house. I would say to my kids, "Hey guys, we need to have the house clean. Grandma's coming on Thursday, so everybody needs to have their room clean by Thursday at 2 o'clock. And inevitably, at first, they would be like, they'd wait until 1:30 and then they would start cleaning. But I started saying to them, "Don't worry, if you don't get your room clean, I will help you." And I would get a big garbage bag out, and I'd put everything that's on the floor in the garbage bag, and I would sell it back to them one thing at a time. In other words, if they had a pair of shoes on the floor, I'd pick up both shoes, and if they did one chore for me when Grandma left, maybe they made their sister's bed, they could have one shoe back. Or if they helped clear the table, if it wasn't their normal chore, I would give them another shoe back. And it was a really fun way that they, number one, would clean their room, and number two, started to learn the responsibility of caring for one another. So we've had so much fun with creating simple memories from things like cleaning your room, doing your chores, and following the rules of the house. I have a lot of people that say, but my kids aren't used to doing chores. They shouldn't have any responsibilities. Their only responsibilities are going to school. That's baloney. Everybody should have responsibilities. And when they love doing it, they're the youngest. They usually can't do a very good job of unloading the dishwasher, but let them hand a fork to you one at a time out of the dishwasher and learn the fun of doing the chores. And so one of the things that I used to say is, when I would go to Education Week every year, I would always come home with some new strategies for being a better parent. And I would always say to my kids, I'm sorry I haven't provided you these opportunities before, but now I learned something new at Education Week. I learned that we all should have chores. I learned how to make discipline fun. I learned, and then we would adopt whatever strategy it was. And we would start bringing some of these things to our home life because we have to learn to work together in a house. Especially once I became a single parent. I needed to learn a way to encourage my kids to be part of the process, to be part of the taking care of our home and taking care of one another. The most important thing you need to remember is that we get so bogged down, sometimes we forget to make home a happy place. Is your home a happy place for your kids to be? Or is it where they come and you nag them about their homework or nag them about their chores? We just have to create a dynamic that's fun and that's encouraging. Now, some of you say, no, we don't. They're kids. There's discipline. I agree with that to some extent, but there are a lot of times that we could turn into much happier memories. And the first thing we should be doing every day, especially as we're going through difficult times, is make sure we give our kids a hug every single day and compliment them every single day. Thanks for helping your brother and sister today. Thanks for doing your homework. Thanks for find one good thing. I had one kid, it took me a lot of effort to remember one good thing every day that he did. But pretty soon I would say it and say it and say it. A psychologist taught me this, and he started to where he would really work hard so that I would recognize something that he had done that day. And it was just a great way of really encouraging those relationships with my kids and with one another. So I do want to say loving a child doesn't mean giving in to all his whims. To love him is to bring out the best in him and to teach him to love what is difficult, which means there are going to be times where we're going to teach our kids the heavy responsibilities of life. And what we teach our kids and how we respond to those everyday moments heavily influences who they are and what they think of themselves. So, for example, if you say to your kids, I can't believe you didn't clean your room, you're so lazy, which I hear a lot of parents say, that doesn't instill the sense of wanting to make change in your child. But if you instead say, hey, thanks so much for cleaning your room last week, or thanks for putting your shoes away, something small, you can build on that, especially when you are now taking care of a household, maybe the finances, and everything else that you have to do if you're a single parent doing it on your own. And you have to be the one to model the good behavior too. Do you have a habit that maybe you could change to make your home a happier place? I started many years ago a rule, and that rule is I yell once a year. I only yell once a year, and I really do. Like Keith will tell you, I only yell once a year. That's my max, and once I use it, I'm done. I'm not allowed to yell anymore. You know why? Because yelling gets us nowhere. It doesn't make our home a happier place. It doesn't teach our kids how to communicate with one another or with teachers or friends or family. It doesn't show them what good behavior is. So can you think of one thing you can change when you get home to model better behavior so your home is a happy place? Because I really want to remind you that every father should remember that one day his son will follow his example instead of his advice. What example are you setting for your kids? Do you do fun things? Do you have a fun attitude? Again, how would your kids describe you? So we do tend to do something that we don't mean to as we overschedule our kids in this day and age. We tend to try to get them involved in every baseball game and every activity that's available at school. But we cannot forget that family time is the most important time for our kids to be kids and to grow up into a home life that they have enjoyed, eating a family meal together, playing games together, spending times together. And that's how they learn independence, is by making some of these choices. I was at a soccer game many years ago, and my friend Paul Howarth said, you know, do you remember the days when kids would just walk out into the street and play football or soccer? Well, we're so busy scheduling our kids, sometimes they don't have the opportunity to do those little neighborhood games. And those are opportunities for them to learn to interact with others in a non-structured environment. So one of the things that I mentioned we love is we love evening time, our family dinner time. So I'm going to let Keith talk a little bit about some of our family memories and about his tradition of Pickard pancakes.
So it might help to talk a little bit about the science behind dinner times. We used to attend a symposium on the front end of Education Week on the Monday. And the professor was talking one day about the 4 primary neurotransmitters in our brain. There's epinephrine or adrenaline, right? That instantaneous fight or flight chemical. There's dopamine, which makes us happy. There's serotonin, which makes us feel calm and good. But there's oxytocin. Oxytocin is the bonding chemical. It does a lot of things, but it's the primary neurotransmitter that's expressed when a mother is nursing, for example, and when the child is nursing. In fact, I'm going to do a little experiment right now. I want all of you to close your eyes for a moment and think of your favorite meal. Okay? You can open your eyes. Most of you probably, when you thought of your favorite meal, had kind of a warm sense come over you momentarily. I just caused some dopamine to be released in your brain, and with that came some oxytocin. When you have a family meal, you're eating. And if you are enjoying what you're eating, oxytocin is going to be present. Well, guess who you're going to bond to? Whatever's around you. Is it your digital device or is it your family member? This is critically important. And I remember back, I too am a convert to the church. And when I first joined the church, I think it was, it may have been or President Kimball, but I think it was, I don't remember who it was. But one of them were talking about the importance of family dinner together and family home evening. And I remember thinking, well, so what? You know, who else is going to eat with me? You know, my mom's making the dinner, or you know, my girlfriend or myself. You know, what difference does it make? And then I went to this symposium and realized that there's some science behind family meals. Well, I grew up with the tradition of my dad every Saturday would make buttermilk pancakes from scratch. And I loved it. Now, I'm kind of burned out on maple syrup, so I use other things now. But I do that now, and I did that for my kids. Every Saturday, or nearly every Saturday, I would make the same recipe that my dad made, I would make for my kids. Now they come and bring their grandkids with them, and they want Pickard pancakes when they come. This is a combination of all the things that we've mentioned before. But dinner time is especially important because that's usually at the end of the day when we've done the things that we needed to do for the day, and now we get to eat together. We get to share our experiences. And that doesn't start when we sit down. That starts when we prepare together. So when we do family dinners, we typically do them, we prepare them together, we eat them together, and then Margaret was great. She'd say, okay, 5 things, or 10 things, depending upon how many things were on the table, which meant to all the kids, you had to pick up your stuff plus 5 things and bring them to the kitchen and help put them in the dishwasher or put extra food away, whatever. Usually cleanup would take 5 or 10 minutes total, and it was all done. And it was a great experience we all got to participate in, okay? In the preparation, the sous chef, the kids would fight over who got to help mom or me prepare, right? Because now it's almost one-on-one time. It was great. And then, you know, the cleanup, as I said, it goes by so quickly, and we do it in a fun way so that it's not a chore. It's not viewed as a chore. It's viewed as part of dinner, okay? Something that Margaret taught me, it's something she used to do with her kids when she was a single mom, was she would read to them every night. Now our kids love to read. Now, we would also build into that this idea that, okay, if we're not going to read, at least we're going to put on a CD for you to listen to, a book on CD. But if you get out of bed, well, and they also like the light on in the hallway. So if you get out of bed, we'll turn the light out in the hallway. If you get out twice, we turn off the CD. They learn very quickly that you don't mess up. You don't get out of bed. You stay in bed. You listen. You enjoy it. And as I say, they're fantastic readers now. And the one thing that the church has been so strong about and so good at is creating family history opportunities. This is where they get to learn their extended family. And you know what we'll see is the more the kids learn about their family, the stronger they feel, or the more well-being they feel themselves. So we're able to weave all these things in and help them get better at whatever they want to do.
Can I just say along those lines is that because we're divorced, we often forget to share our courtship story with our kids' parents. We forget to share a funny story of dancing in the rain with their dad. Those are things that kids need to know, that they came from a loving union, or what was once a loving union. Kids need to know their own story. So share their story with them.
And then there's the flip side of that. That is letting the children participate in the telling. Find ways of engaging them, because children want to talk as much as we do. Now, of course, they may not be as articulate, although some of us wonder if maybe we're as articulate as a 4-year-old if we're standing in front of a judge and we don't have anything better to say. But at the end of the day, listening is an important thing to do, because kids will identify and they feel so good when we're listening to them. And sometimes their stories will make no sense and we'll be laughing. They don't know that we're laughing, because it doesn't make sense. They just know we're having fun. These are the kinds of memories that they will take with them. Okay, so remember the pearls of listening. Listen with your eyes. How many of us will take the time to, you took your phone, yeah, I'm listening, right? Yeah. And so don't do that. Listen and enjoy. You can tell how someone's engaged with you just by looking at their eyes. And the first 5 minutes makes a difference. I'll tell this story. I know we're running out of time. But I was listening to a tape, I think it was Dr. Phil, if I remember right. And he made the comment that, the first 5 minutes of any interaction makes all the difference. And I think I was coming home from work, but I came in, I think you had the dinner on the table, and I came in and I was grumpy. And I don't remember what all I said, but Margaret said, "So dear, how was your day today?" And she said it in kind of a tense tone. I recognized exactly what had happened. I got up and I walked out the door, and the kids were stunned. And then I came back in, "Hi everybody, how are you all doing," right? And they learned an important lesson, and I learned an important lesson, that the first 5 minutes really does make a difference, and you can start over. And don't try to fix every problem you have, okay? If you have troubled youth, seek guidance. I won't spend any more time on that. But every generation revolts against their fathers and makes friends with their grandfathers. Think about that. Okay? We're out of time.
So just remember that your kids love you and they want to spend time with you. And we've just kind of given you a little beginning of how to do that with your kids. Spend time with them, enjoy things. If you have troubled youth, make sure you've got leaders or grandparents who can help you parent them. Because at the end of the day, your kids want to know that you like them you enjoy being with them, and we hope that you will enjoy the journey. Is it coming back up? We hope that you will enjoy the journey with your kids and make happy memories using some of the examples we have today. But remember, in the end, you're going to ask yourself, what do my kids remember about me? How do they describe me? And we hope that's happy and joyful. Enjoy the journey, and thank you for joining us today. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.